Studio Microphone Macabre History. Sinister Families That Haunted England Full Story. Mantelpiece Clock Prologue. Shadows on the Isles. In the ancient lands of England, history isn't only found in books or buried in stone ruins. Sometimes, it whispers through ivy-choked manors, echoes across windswept moors, and hides behind the locked doors of family secrets. Tonight, we open the heavy, creaking door into a darker part of England's past, the macabre history of sinister families whose names still haunt local legends. Prepare yourself for a journey through forgotten bloodlines, accursed halls, and terrifying legacies, where power and madness entwined, and the living sometimes envy the dead. Castle Chapter 1. The Blackwood Curse. Our tale begins in the misty county of Devonshire, among damp forests and rolling fog. Here stood Blackwood Manor, home to the once feared Blackwood family. The Blackwoods gained power during the Tudor era. Rumors claimed they made dark pacts to protect their fortune, bargains sealed in blood, whispered under moonless skies. One cold winter's night in 1573, Lord Nathaniel Blackwood disappeared from his bedchamber. All they found was a trail of muddy footprints leading to the family crypt. Days later, his body was discovered inside, lifeless, clutching a broken candle. After his death, tragedy stalked the family. Each firstborn son met an untimely end, some drowned in shallow streams, others vanished into the moors, never to be found. Villagers whispered about the Blackwood Curse, a punishment for sins so dark no priest dared name them. By the late 1700s, the family line had dwindled. Today, ivy chokes Blackwood Manor. Locals say you can hear a baby's cry drifting from the crypt on misty nights, a reminder that some debts are paid across generations. Fire Chapter 2. The Sins of the Ashcrofts. Travel north to Yorkshire, where the Ashcroft family built wealth on wool and iron. But the Ashcrofts' hunger for power had no end. In 1647, Sir Edmund Ashcroft was accused of witchcraft. Witnesses testified he held secret gatherings in candlelit cellars, reciting incantations in Latin. But wealth bought silence, and he died a free man. Decades later, tragedy returned. Fires swept through Ashcroft Hall, not once, but thrice, each time claiming a family heir. Locals spoke of a burning woman in white, seen on the stairs before every blaze. One chilling account tells of Catherine Ashcroft, Edmund's granddaughter, who vanished on her wedding night. Her bloodied gown was found beside the hearth, but her body was never recovered. Ashcroft Hall stood until 1821, when fire reduced it to blackened ruins. Even today, travelers claim to see flames flickering above its foundation on stormy nights, though nothing remains to burn. Candle Chapter 3. The Hollow Moors and the Whitmores. In Lancashire's desolate Hollow Moors stood Whitmore House, home to the Whitmores, a proud but secretive family. Their story is one of pride turned to poison. In the late 1600s, young Thomas Whitmore returned from the continent with strange ideas, secret societies, alchemy, and dark philosophies. He spent his nights in the cellar, poring over leather-bound tomes. Servants reported hearing sobs, chants, and once, a guttural voice answering back. Soon, the family began to suffer. Children were born sickly, servants fled in terror. Thomas himself was found dead, his face twisted in horror, clutching a scrap of parchment that read only, "I opened the door." No one knows what door he meant. The Whitmore name faded from history, and the Hollow Moors swallowed their legacy. Yet, shepherds still avoid the ruins, claiming the wind there carries whispers in a tongue no living man can understand. Full Moon Chapter 4. The Gallowglass Lineage. Travel east to Norfolk, where the Gallowglass family built their fortune as mercenaries. But in the shadows of their ancestral home, Ravenhurst, darker deeds grew. In the 18th century, Lord Benedict Gallowglass became obsessed with immortality. He gathered relics from ancient tombs, filling Ravenhurst with mummies, skulls, and occult artifacts. In 1759, a violent plague swept Norfolk. Villagers blamed Lord Benedict, claiming he had desecrated the dead, angering forces beyond mortal control. When they stormed Ravenhurst, they found the Gallowglass family dead in the Great Hall, each seated at the banquet table, eyes wide open, as though frozen mid-toast. To this day, Ravenhurst stands abandoned. Ghost hunters speak of shadows moving behind broken windows and cold hands brushing their shoulders as they climb the grand staircase. Coffin Chapter 5. The Holloway Pact. In the rolling hills of Kent lived the Holloways, an aristocratic family known for their piety, or so it seemed. In 1622, young Abigail Holloway fell ill. In desperation, her father, Lord William Holloway, sought help from a traveling mystic. But what was promised as healing became a curse. Abigail survived, but her laughter turned hollow, and animals fled her presence. Generations later, each Holloway heir was born with a strange mark upon the chest, a blackened birthmark shaped like a serpent. By the 1800s, the last Holloway heir, Edward, sealed himself inside the family chapel, scrawling pages of mad scripture. His final entry read, "The pact cannot be undone. The Holloway estate lies in ruin, reclaimed by weeds." But wanderers claim to hear scratching behind chapel walls, as if something, or someone, is still trapped inside. Mantelpiece Clock Chapter 6, The Price of Legacy. Across centuries, these families built walls and gathered riches to guard their secrets. But as these stories show, no wealth or power can escape the long shadow of guilt and fear. What drove them to darkness? Was it arrogance, desperation, or did they stumble upon truths no man should ever know? Some historians dismiss these tales as folklore. But step into these ruins at night, and even the bravest hearts feel the chill of unseen eyes. Candle Chapter 7, Echoes in Modern England. Though centuries have passed, traces of these sinister families remain. At Blackwood Manor, tourists leave flowers by the crypt, hoping to calm the restless child's spirit. In Hollow Moors, hikers still report dreams of a door they must never open. And near Ravenhurst, locals refuse to speak the Gallowglass name after sunset. England's landscape is dotted with ruins and forgotten halls, but the stones remember. The ground remembers. And sometimes, memory is more haunting than any ghost. Mantelpiece Clock Epilogue. What remains? In the end, the greatest horror may not be the curses, shadows, or specters, but the truth that power, greed, and fear echo across generations. These macabre histories remind us, our deeds, whispered or shouted, do not die with us. They linger, haunting places, and sometimes, haunting bloodlines. So, when you next walk through a ruined hall, pause and listen. For you may hear the whispers of the Blackwoods, Ashcrofts, Whitmores, Gallowglass, and Holloways, echoes of a time when families gambled with darkness, and lost. Candle the End.